Good day. I'm Bob Marsh, and I'm running for City Council. I'm sitting here today with the folks from in Maricopa, and I'm about to be interviewed. This year's campaign is a little strange. We can't go out and meet people, talk one-on-one, or talk in large groups. So it's mostly multimedia, online, and the press that you can use to get to know us. But if you do have any questions for me, holler today or between now and August 4th. But I hope you do come out and vote on August 4th. We've got 6 good candidates running. I'm one of them. And you'll see my signs around town, vote for Bob. So let's do it.
Okay. Bob, thanks for joining in Maricopa, our Meet the Candidates on Facebook Live. You're the latest candidate to join us, and we thank you for being here today to answer questions.
Thanks for having me.
Just by way of introduction, you are a retired engineer, IT consultant. You have worked for Microsoft in community development. And early in your career, something I find very interesting, you designed and built computer equipment that NASA used on the lunar landings. You're a Vermont native, but you've lived in Arizona for more than 25 years.
Right.
And in Maricopa, I believe, for about 8?
10.
10, okay. You have served on the City of Maricopa Planning and Zoning Commission and other zoning and planning boards in the city.
Right.
And you've run for both City Council and a seat on the Maricopa Flood Control District Board.
Right.
You have written regularly about seniors in Maricopa, but we have suspended that column as soon as you got into the race, just so our readers know and our viewers know. You and your wife, Cynthia, who is also with us here today, have 5 grown children among you, and you have grandchildren.
And great-grandchildren.
And great-grandchildren. Okay. What else would you like our Facebook viewers to know about Bob Marsh, the person, as opposed to the candidate?
Well, I lived here in Arizona in Tempe and Fountain Hills back in the 70s and 80s. And my passion then, besides work, was exploring the state. I always had a Jeep, got a smart car now, but always had a Jeep, and we explored this state from end to end, corner to corner, hiked the Grand Canyon several times, several different trails, and just love Arizona. Really have a ball living here.
Awesome. Okay. So Bob, why are you seeking election to City Council? Like I said, this is your second campaign. And why should residents be thinking about a vote for Bob?
Well, working for the city as a volunteer on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and now for Pinal County on their Board of Adjustment, I've learned a lot about the state and the city and the different paths the city can take going forward. I participated in the writing of the 2040 vision document and the general plan update, which is the steering document for our city. The work that staff does, the work that council does, is in the context of that general plan.
Okay.
It gets updated every 10 years, so we're coming up on another 10-year cycle in 2025. That'll be fun to get involved with again. One of the things we put into that general plan update was to have the Maricopa of the future avoid becoming just another Chandler, Gilbert, Mesa, Tempe, XY grid with north, south, and east-west streets, and rather be a little bit more like Buckeye and Verrado, where you have villages, maybe 8 or 10 villages in our planning area, which goes all the way from the Gila River Reservation to 4.5 miles south of Interstate 8.
Okay.
With a projected future population of 800,000. Now, if we have a bunch of different villages, they can each have a different flavor. They don't all have to have the same flavor as the Copper Sky Village area up here. Tortosa is primed to become a future village. The Anderson-Russell complex by the Ak-Chin Airport in way southeast Maricopa, that's going to be a unique village. And the Anderson-Russell developers are looking at what character they want to give to their village. it's going to be fascinating. People can sort of vote with their feet as to what kind of lifestyle they want, what kind of village they want to live in.
And does that improve the quality of life for people to have that choice and
I
to
think
be
it
able
gives us
to?
more options than
Yeah.
just being a big, homogeneous grid.
Right.
Kind of boring.
Okay. Like I said, you ran for city council 2 years ago and you finished fourth.
Right.
I believe you were about 600 votes from earning a seat on council.
Just behind Vince Manfredi, who works here.
Right, exactly. What did you learn from that experience?
It was my first political run. I've been an engineer, not a politician. Public speaking is one of my core competencies. So I had to learn a lot about how to behave on stage and how to answer questions directly, and not drill down technically too deep for a blended audience.
Mm-hmm.
I also learned a lot about what's going on behind the scenes in Maricopa from interacting with other candidates and with city council members and Mayor Price. And part of that was from the planning and zoning work I was doing. The city is a complex entity with lots of things going on, lots of balls in the air at the same time. And it's fun. It's a fun challenge as a professional community development manager to integrate all that energy and all the different directions the city can go in and pull together a coherent strategy that can actually go into a general plan or go into future developments in the city.
Okay. Are you doing anything different with your campaign this time around? I know with coronavirus, all the candidates are having to adjust somewhat in terms of how they reach voters. Are you doing anything else differently apart from that?
Well, I had to go out and talk with people about what the needs and priorities are for the city this go round. And I was surprised at how much things have changed since the last election, just 2 years ago. The main points that I came up with were way different from my previous run. So my website will be very different this time around. The things that I want to focus on this time are wrapped around enticing large employers to come here by getting our infrastructure in place so that they can be supported and sustained here. We're not going to be able to attract a big company to put in either a headquarters or a division or a department or even a call center unless we have all these boxes ticked. And each big company has its own unique set of infrastructure boxes that it needs taken care of. So talking with them, getting it straight, working with the infrastructure providers here is going to be very important. We need somebody who can talk those companies' languages. Mm-hmm. And that's one of my strengths. I've done IT projects for almost every kind of big company, and I've worked with many of the big companies as a full-time engineer or developer. So I understand the vocabulary and a bit of their processes, enough to be able to communicate with them well. I think we're going to be able to pull some things off here in the coming 4 years that we'll look back on with pride and amazement.
Excellent. The city's working right now on a budget for the next fiscal year. What would be your budgetary priorities for Maricopa?
Well, because of my age, I'm very aware of what it's like to live on a fixed income. And we have a sizable retired population here that's living under those circumstances. And seniors can't absorb a large tax increase. So I'm firmly in favor of carrying on the Maricopa tradition and history of reducing taxes, not increasing them. There are certain circumstances where you have to do an increase, like if you want to do a new school. And Maricopa voted that last one down, showing where our priorities are among the voters. Mm-hmm. I don't know if the coronavirus incident is going to change our budget, but we did get a nearly $6 million grant from the COVID relief funds, and we can use those to recover our businesses, the costs of protecting the population from the virus, and the cost of keeping our numbers down. So we may come out of this with a very positive reduced budget. I think you'll find as you follow Rick Horst's career here, the man is an astute businessman. He knows which way is up. He knows how to manage a big budget, and he knows how to manage a city. I think we're going to be able to work some magic here.
Okay. You have said, you mentioned seniors. You have said that the city should be doing more for its seniors. As a new council member, what new programs might you seek? And what programs would you expand to increase the quality of life for our senior residents?
I'm on the board of the Maricopa Senior Coalition. We've been working for several years fighting an upstream battle to try and get a senior center here. Rick Horst has worked some magic and figured out how to do a senior center, veteran center combo. As a member of council, I want to be one of the sponsors, mentors for that senior center, vet center, and work with the other groups that interface with seniors to make sure that we maximize the utility and maximize the happiness around that senior center. One of my pet projects on the fun side, you probably inherited a box of old photos from your grandparents. They're in a closet somewhere, slides, photos. They're turning orange and yellow and so forth. Those can be scanned using either your smartphone or a really good scanner and uploaded to the web, annotated with a little bit of who, what, where, why, how, and provide a history of your family, at least some of it, to Ancestry.com or other apps that can preserve your family's traditions and stories a little bit. So I've been tinkering around with a new scanner and laptop and molding it into a workstation that I can donate to the new senior center so that seniors and others can come and scan their photos and slides, annotate them, and do with them what they want. Put them on a memory stick and send them out to your family, whatever, or post them to the cloud. I think it'll be a fun project. And I've got agreement from the city staff so far that it's thumbs up. They'll find a place for it.
Very nice. Are the contributions of seniors appreciated enough in Maricopa?
Given that seniors vote in a large percentage and millennials typically don't, seniors are appreciated. If you look at the funds spent by city councilmen and women from their discretionary funds, the senior lunch and learns, other senior events, very heavily funded and followed. Seniors game night or multi-generational game night, which ends up being mostly seniors, is a packed room, and it's a lot of fun. I learned how to play dominoes. You also see that energy in Maricopa, where there are two columnists right now doing what once was a single article senior corner. Now it's an aging in place theme, and then what's going on in the senior ecosystem here. And two good writers telling their stories each month. I think seniors are recognized.
Good. Okay. You mentioned infrastructure earlier. Mm-hmm. What do you see as the most immediate needs, either from a perspective of just quality of life in Maricopa, or from the perspective you mentioned earlier about making the city an attractive place for big companies to locate here? What are the primary needs in your view?
From an immediate standpoint, the number 347 comes up. And as Christian Price has laid out, it's going to take a long time for us to get 347 fixed. Budget isn't available. The Gila River Indian community isn't on board with us on that yet. We've got problems, but we can do some significant things to shorten the commute for Maricopa's. And this has been discussed lightly in the community. I think it's something we can roll with this coming year. And that is following the lead of Honeycutt Road here, interfacing with 347, and doing merge lanes and acceleration lanes that bypass the traffic signals, northbound, going out of town at Smithinky and Edison Road, so that communities can get onto 347 faster, quicker, easier, without a stoplight. Also, southbound coming home, we can do the same thing at I-10 and 347 southbound and put in a merge lane. Do the same thing at Old Maricopa Road near the Hugam Museum, and get a merge lane there so there's no stopping. That'll speed things up significantly. Ultimately, yes, we need a bridge over Riggs, and a consistent driving model all the way from I-10 home without stops or with minimal stops. We can also, the city is about to take over, I understand, the traffic signals as well on 347. They'll be managing that at least through town, and they can optimize that so that getting through town will be minimal speed, minimal time, maximum speed.
Gotcha. Okay. You mentioned 347. In addition to those traffic jams that you're talking about, it's got a safety problem too.
Mm-hmm.
It would seem. And certainly a long-term solution seems likely for that road. Mm-hmm. But what can be done now to make it a safer commute?
Speed cameras with ticketing could go on there, and it could provide revenue to the Gila River Indian community. Also just education, patrolling, and enforcement of existing regulations, rules, speed limits could help a lot. Sheriff Lamb recently did a video on the left lane hoggers. A little bit more of that so the word gets out. We've got bad behavior problems on the 347, and it's frustrating to everybody, whether you're just sitting in the right lane going with the flow or trying to pass and getting blocked. It raises your blood pressure sometimes. Not good.
No.
But there's a light on the horizon. The COVID virus taught us how to work from home, and large bunches of the population have developed skills with programs like Microsoft Teams, Skype, WebEx, Zoom, etc. And Maricopa right now is primed for any company that wants to pull together a community of people who can work remote. We've got the skills now. We've got the bandwidth. We could use better bandwidth. But we've got the bandwidth. We've got the people. We've got the college degrees and experience. You could come in here and put together a work from home hub and train people on what you need done and get them up to speed. And we don't have to wait for some big employer to come in and build a building. We can just be Maricopa, the place where you can work from home. And that could happen right away.
Okay. We have some questions here. Bill Robertson asks.
Hi, Bill.
Says hello. What are your concerns about Maricopa's water future?
I had some discussions with folks at Global recently, and
can I ask you to speak up a little bit? We're
Sure.
having some people saying that they can't hear you. So.
Okay. I spoke with some folks at Global recently, And the current state of our aquifer is pretty good. We're not in trouble. They can still write 100-year certificates of water supply so that new subdivisions can be developed, can come online, where other cities are blocked right now and can't write certificates. Our water supply looks pretty good. The Santa Cruz River flows on the surface and underground all the way from Mexico, a couple hundred miles of river in Mexico, all the way through Maricopa. And the underground portion of that has a pretty good flow, pretty decent flow. The Global's also setting up a system where they take advantage of their water purification plant for reclaimed water, which is grade A or double A reclaimed, and they can recharge the aquifer by pumping that water into the ground without polluting it. So a lot of our reclaimed water that isn't being used for landscaping or agricultural purposes can go back into the ground and recharge the aquifer. So we're looking pretty good on water. I'm pretty impressed with what they're doing. Also, as we start to expand past Ak-Chin and start building south toward Interstate 8 and annex that land, Global already has a water processing plant south of Ak-Chin ready for us to start using. And that could come online very quickly if developers want to jump in and develop down there. I think our water's doing pretty good. Now, it may not taste great to you to drink. You may have to put a reverse osmosis system on your house or on your kitchen sink or whatever to get palatable drinking water. There's a lot of hardness in the water. That's just the state of the aquifer, and it would really raise our rates a lot if we were to ask them to take all of that hardness out before putting it in the pipes that come to our homes. So, contact a plumber and get an RO system for $400 and you're good to go.
One complaint I hear about the water here and a lot of desert communities is the cost.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that the water company can do or that residents can be doing to help drive down those costs?
Now, the story on that is pretty easy. If you live in Pittsburgh or Philadelphia and you build a new house or a new subdivision, you tap into an existing system that's been there for decades. It's all paid for. We're a new town. All of our pipes and pumps and processing facilities are new. They haven't been paid for yet, so we're paying for them. About $100 a month per household goes into that infrastructure and paying it off. There's not much we can do about that. It's not going to be paid off for a long, long time. So it's a case of live with it. The incremental cost of water is only $10 or $20 a month, typically for a house. Somehow the infrastructure has to be paid for. It's not free.
Fair enough. Let's see, we're going to go to another question. Sorry here. What resources or difference can you make as a council member for the young families in Maricopa? We've talked about the seniors. How about the young families?
There's a couple things. I'm in favor of diverse housing. That is not just having the big single family homes like we've got, 3, 4, 5 bedrooms, but also having studios, 1, 2, 3 bedroom, apartments, condos, patio homes. Big fan of patio homes. Places where new families can come in, young families can afford for a first house. College students can buy into or rent. And also seniors can downsize too and stay in Maricopa. So it works on both ends of the age spectrum to have diverse housing. When you're 85, you don't want to have a big lawn to mow and trees to maintain. You want something that's relatively easy to live in and fairly low cost. Right now, The typical Maricopa, the average Maricopa home requires an income, a family income of $51,000 or more in order to sustain it. And there are things you have to do with an Arizona home. Stucco doesn't last on its own. You have to repaint it every decade or so just to hold the stucco together. Arizona fact. Arizona roofs don't last forever unless they're tile, stone, whatever. And the water pipes don't last forever either. They'll get corroded and filled up eventually, just from the hard water. So there's continuing rolling expenses of living in a house. If you go to a patio home or a condo or something, the costs are less.
Okay.
Very much in favor of that, and that works for young families. One of the things I want to do on council is on the recreation side is add new parks in the underserved areas, new parks and practice fields in Tortosa and up by the east end of the lakes development, so that families in those areas have the same kind of access to parks as the folks around Pecana and Copper Sky.
Gotcha. Okay. Let me just jump back to, I'm sorry, the flooding. Right? You ran for the board. How important is flood mitigation to the economic future of Maricopa and its continued growth? And what can be done now to get more homes and land out of that floodplain?
Back in Maricopa's history, just a few decades, where we're sitting right now was 3 feet deep in water due to a flood. The Santa Cruz and the Santa Rosa, if a storm comes in south of us and just sits there for a while, all that water is going to come through town. And we've done a good job of channelizing Santa Rosa, and we're about to merge the Santa Cruz with the Santa Rosa to get it through town in those channels. There are still parts of Maricopa that are potentially underwater in a flood, including most of the Heritage District. And in my own subdivision, Desert Cedars, just north of Copper Sky, about 20 homes are still in the flood hazard zone. So as a member of the HOA for Desert Cedars, I started attending Maricopa Flood Control District meetings on a regular basis, got to know what their capabilities were, what they could and couldn't do, what FEMA could do for us. And working with them, we've gotten a FEMA grant for $65,000 to study the Desert Cedars situation and come up with a solution. Hired a team of engineers to figure it out. They've come up with a proposal that they're about to announce to us, and they're going to fix it. Still just within that $65,000. Now, a couple things happened with this project. We're going to get the 20 homes out of the flood hazard zone, sure. But also, the Maricopa Flood Control District now has grant writing skills that they can use to, one at a time, take the other dominoes down and track that water through town and bring other areas, including the Heritage District and several businesses in Maricopa, out of the flood hazard zone. Getting the city out of the flood zone by various means is going to enable more development and enable more businesses to come to town. So I think that's really critical. No big company's going to put a big building up here if they know it's going to be underwater.
Right. I'm going to take another question from our viewers. Abby Green asks, do you support the Black Lives Matter movement, and will you kneel right now to show your support?
Well, I don't know if I'll be able to get back up again, but I was a supporter of Colin Kaepernick when he first started this kneeling in recognition of the bad stuff that was going on with Black Lives Matter, and that was a long time ago. My family is multiracial, and I have cousins and people in the family who are half black, part black, American Indian, Portuguese, etc. around the world. Yeah, I'm certainly not a racist by any means.
And what can the city do to promote equality for all? Can it be doing more?
This city is so diverse. And you go to any of the events in town, the population is so diverse. It's just wonderful, and people get along just fine. I've seen so many hugs just in the past few days, even with the virus going on, over the whole BLM situation. This is really a time for change, and it's quite exciting. I think it's not going to get buried again.
You get a sense that this is different this time?
Things are going to change for the better.
Good. Another question from Bill. Actually, Bill's
Hi, Bill.
Asking questions. Thank you, Bill. Will the new Pinal County complex being built here have an arrest intake facility so Maricopa Police Department does not have to transport prisoners to Florence?
My understanding is yes. I think I heard that was going to be part of the plan here. I haven't seen the interior diagrams yet, the floor specs and so forth. But my understanding was that was part of it. I'm on a Pinal County board myself. I'm on the Board of Adjustments and Appeals, and we meet in Florence on a monthly basis. I'm hoping to be able to invite the rest of the board to come to Maricopa when our complex gets opened. Of course, they're coming from all over the county, and Arizona counties are about the size of New England states. So it's a long drive to come from Dudleyville to Maricopa. It'll take one of our board members 2 hours to get here, I think, from the other side of Pinal.
Bob, I wanted to ask you about the recent ethics complaint vote that came before City Council. On May 19th, 6 council members voted to reject an ethics complaint that was filed against Councilwoman Julia Gussie by In Maricopa's owner, Scott Bartle. On May 5th, in this same forum that we're doing now on Facebook Live, Councilwoman Gussie said that she supports all businesses. Yet she is also on record telling the mayor about In Maricopa and its publisher that, quote, my recommendation is to not advertise one dime of our city's advertising budget in this publication, end quote, and that she will, quote, will fight for the discontinued financial support of his organization. She's also admitted to asking local businesses not to cancel their advertising agreements within Maricopa. So just a simple question. Is it appropriate for an elected official to proactively try to harm a local business?
I think it's not. I think that's a bad move on her part. And I think business lives matter in Maricopa. And I'll do another knee for that. I think part of her issue may be conflict, internecine conflict, just on the council, because another councilman, Vince Manfredi, is an advertising manager here,
right,
as well. So there may be something going on there too. But yeah, I would distance myself from that kind of behavior. I don't think it was fair. I thought it was pretty smart of Councilman Rich Vitiello to do his homework with the city's attorney and determine that the ethics policy and ordinance that council agreed to doesn't apply to third parties. It's meant for one council person to attack another council person. We need another mechanism for having businesses and other third parties, individuals, to complain about ethical behavior or whatever behavior of people on council. We've got the ability to vote. We've got the ability to form a recall. And we've got the ability to stand up in a council meeting of the call to the public in order to voice opinions like that. But to bring formal charges, the current law doesn't cover that.
I was going to ask you about that. The code does not explicitly say that third parties cannot file an ethics complaint. Do you agree with that, thinking that the only recourse to voters is an expensive, timely recall effort, or waiting until the next election? Do you see another way to keep council members accountable to the public?
Yeah, absolutely. If you go to call to the public and bring your complaint forward, it's on public record. You can work toward getting support from other members of the council, and then the council members can bring the complaint to the fore using the existing legislation. So I think that would be a way of bringing it forward in a straightforward manner, in a very public manner.
Does the city even need an ethics code? Do you like the idea of one?
I do. Ethical behavior isn't in everybody's plumbing, and sometimes you have to force the issue. Sometimes you need the guidance of an ordinance, a rule. I mean, Robert's Rules of Order, named for another Bob, is loosely used in our meetings. If we didn't have Robert's Rules, our meetings wouldn't be quite so orderly. Religions were founded in order to get more ethical behavior out of people. But not all of us are the same religion. So it's good to have a law on the books that covers that.
Okay. We have another question. Bob, how do you see the new bond rating benefiting the city development of the tax base?
I think Christian Price and Rick Horst are geniuses. They just announced that they made an additional $300,000 gain. I think we're up to $1,830,000 or so in savings, or the interest over the period of the Copper Sky bond. And that's pretty exciting. If we can keep doing things like that, we're not going to have to raise taxes. No way.
Excellent. You have said that your work experience has made you a bit of an expert on getting people to work together effectively. At times, it seems that has been a challenge for this council. If you are elected, what would you do to emphasize unity and common goals over politics?
One company I worked for roughly 25 years relies on collaboration among its employees to get work done. If the employees aren't collaborating, if the various software products aren't working together, the whole system falls apart. So everyone's salary and bonuses are graded on collaboration. You actually get a letter grade, a numerical grade on how well you collaborate. Everybody wants to be a hero and do something spectacular and change the world, at least at that company. I won't mention Bill Gates' name, but the idea is to make sure that you're collaborating to the max and doing it well. So everybody studies up on how can I best develop my negotiating skills, how can I communicate better, not hide my work from other people like in high school, but spread it around, get it out in public, and actually collaborate with other people to get stuff done. We all have core competencies, and we need to share those with other people. So I found myself working on projects for 8 or 10 other people where I had a small piece in their projects, but they also would take a small piece of mine. It comes out pretty even most of the time, but working together to support each other's goals and objectives and pet projects. Um, it's pretty cool. Within the Maricopa Senior Coalition, each of us in the organization has a pet project that we're working on. I'm working on the photo archiving and scanning thing. Another fellow is working on aging in place. Another's working on home gardening and so forth. But we all support each other's projects as well and take part in them. Nobody's alone.
Right.
And I think council can do a lot of that.
Okay. I think we'll have one last question before we let you go. And this has been the question that we've tried to end all of our interviews with. Trump or Biden?
Well, I've looked at this, and I'm not terribly happy about either candidate. I can hold my nose and say Biden, but I was very disappointed by Trump's results with the virus, and I'm embarrassed by his work with Black Lives Matter now and his treatment of the demonstrators. And it's a not this time, Donald. Sorry, and I apologize to my friends. I respect your support for Donald, and I'd fight to defend your right to vote for him, but I can't do it, not this time.
Fair enough. One more quick question has slid in. Abby asks, besides you, who would you suggest she votes for on council?
Okay,
about that?
Just open. I'd say Nancy Smith deserves to be reelected. She does awesome work for the city. Her husband has done awesome work for the county. He's the head of the Board of Supervisors for Pinell County now. And he's built a wonderful reputation for honesty and hard work, and so has she. She's been running the senior game night and lunch and learn sessions for seniors that get seniors out of their homes and into a social situation. And has just done wonderful work. Besides voting for Bob, Lynette comes in with strong credentials as a school teacher, and she and Amber both understand the kids and their needs and families and their needs. So if you're looking for social programs that'll benefit families and children, either of them, quite good. Amber has a long track record in Maricopa, 16 years. Lynette, more recent, but very smart, very on point. Julia has a history, and most recently a little bit of history with this publication. So I'll leave that up to voters, but she does a good job of supporting and sustaining the veterans community here. She's a veteran herself. She works at ASU in a veteran enablement kind of job. And she understands what the veterans need. And I think she'd be critical to have around during this next phase while we open up the new Veterans Center. She can be on board with that and maximize its benefits to the vets. Andre's new to the game and new to politics. Personally, I think he should do some time on a commission or board, Board of Adjustment, Planning and Zoning, Parks and Rec, whatever, and get some Maricopa government experience under his wings before shooting for a top job. I guess that's about it. That's all 6.
Any last words to the viewers on any topics that we haven't covered so far?
I think one of the most exciting things you can do in retirement is moving to a new city that hasn't been built yet. It's been started, but it ain't done. And there's so much work to be done here. You can bring your your career experience, your education, your dreams here, and make things happen. And for me, over the past decade, it's just been amazing to be a part of this, to have my name on stuff like a general plan and a 2040 document, and to see things get built that I've approved. I mean, every time I drive by Copper Sky at night and I see the lights on, I approve those lights. My name's on that. I mean, that's kind of cool. You can't do that in Philadelphia.
No.
And yeah, I urge people to take advantage of their opportunity here to help steer Maricopa forward, and help your dreams come true. It's a beautiful place, beautiful people, and it's going to get even better.
Bob Marsh, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you stopping by and wish you luck on your campaign.
Thank you very much.